aggressive. And that's something that we've come to learn over watching their 8 games. And the composition not only worked to Splyce's strengths, it also countered Giant's strengths in that they could dive on Knight, get rid of him, and then deal with everybody else.
Certainly did. And moving forward, we'll have to see how Giants decide to set up their draft to perhaps better facilitate Knight, but also to allow SmittyJ a little bit more threat on their backline, because that Maokai did not have anywhere near the same sort of impact as the Olaf did.
It did not, and there are already adjustments in picks and bans. Can you explain to me why Nautilus is banned now? Or at least theorize why you
My only logic is they try to ban Nidalee and they misclick. I'm not even kidding. I honestly think like Nidalee is right next to Nautilus and they wanted to take it away from Maxlor.
This is a question we will have to ask the players, or whether or not they know something we don't. There have been some pivots. Vladimir is available. If Giants don't first pick it, you have to think that Splyce will run it.
But Senkux is Anivia. Really good pick into the Vladimir. I did actually watch the interview that Pobelta had where he said, I pick Anivia into Vladimir thinking it's a really good counter, but when I played against Bjergsen's, apparently Anivia does not counter Bjergsen's Vladimir. So perhaps if Knight can prove that his Vladimir is as good as Bjergsen's is, he may be able to deal with the Anivia that's likely to come out from Senkux.
I had the pleasure of talking to Senkux and Perks earlier in the week, and we were discussing exactly this, Vladimir versus Anivia and where the strengths are. All they could come to an agreement on was in team fights, Anivia can do very well.
Yes.
However, outside of that, definitely not the case. So we'll see whether or not Senkux wants to run that. We can expect it. We can anticipate it. However, he's saving that pick for a little bit later. It's a hover. Don't get excited about the Hecarim. You can't see Vedius jumping for joy. But we'll see whether or not they want to go there.
Yeah, we won't talk about that for now. We'll talk about the Vladimir that has come out from Knight. It is going to be a very powerful pick. It scales very well, has very good laning phase, transitions nicely into the mid, and it pretty much fits into a vast majority of team compositions. He's good at split pushing, he's good in team fights. The big problem is that he does lack quite a lot of utility, so hopefully from the rest of Giants' composition they need to make up for that somewhere, whereas the Ezreal and the Rek'Sai, looks like that Splyce, they're just going to go with a composition that works. Why fix something that ain't broke, eh?
Well, there we go. As predicted, now we get to judge these guys on how well they perform on the particular champions. Knight, 2 games of Vladimir, 1 win, 1 loss. Only the single Anivia performance for Senkux, but he was not killed. He ended the game 2-0-13, so very, very good stats. More zone control, more AoE, more team fights as Mickey's locked in Zyra.
This is basically a strategy that has come out pre-planned from Splyce. They knew the Vladimir was coming, and the big issue that Vladimir has is getting onto your opponents. He has no gap closes. If you build the Brodo Belt, yes, it does help you a little bit, but you're pretty much just going to be running at your opponents. And the best way to deal with that is big areas of control that come from Anivia and Zyra. So Knight is going to have a really tough time in getting involved in these fights. From
Anivia, from Zyra, from blue build Ezreal, there are a lot of tools that Splyce can use to stay away from Vlad. I'm not a fan of this Alawi hover, because of the fact that all of these tools can also keep Alawi away. Alawi needs somebody to be running at her to work. So, Giants need to lock in their AD carry as well as their top laner, and it will be Irelia, that I like, against the CC and the Tenacity, and a very long-range ADC in Jhin. So there's actually, I think, some tools here for Giants to work with.
So, from Giants, they have a couple of interesting picks coming out. The Gragas is actually really good against these low mobility mages in the form of Zyra and Anivia. So if they're ever so slightly out of position, Maxlor is quickly going to be able to punish that. But when you have the follow-up from an Aurelia and a Karma, it's quickly possible for you to just punish that. So there is that ability to just split the team fight up from Splyce, which is good from Giants. But this Jhin pick is really good at setting up picks, and the big thing for me is how well is he going to be able to deal with Wonder, who once again is just going to be running at your face.
Going to be a challenge. Although I do think in terms of the Splyce composition, they've got a real kite and fight, kite backwards and peel away. I kind of feel like Giants are going to be hard-pressed to create initiation. So we could be in for another slow early to mid game until a team can find that explosive opportunity.
The thing is, though, for Splyce, is they actually have no real way to start a fight. Having a chat with Greppo, he said, yeah, Zyra is really good in lane. She is horrible to fight against in lane. She has so much damage.
Yeah, I heard his rant earlier.
She's really good in team fights as well, but she's awful at setting up proactive plays. It's so difficult for her to actually force anything. So just the entire Splyce lineup is very much, yeah, you run at us, but if Giants never do that, Splyce are never going to get the fights they want.
Well, on the side of Giants, they're going to be looking for the max law engages with Gragas, potentially follow that up with a route from Aurelia by Smitty J, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a challenge. It was the team comps once more. Let us know who... if Splyce are going to pick up this 2-0, I think if they can pick up 3 points, especially against a team like Giants, that is that 6-point swing. You deny 3 points to Giants, you give yourself 3 points, you make it even more difficult for Giants to claw their way out of the 7th, 8th position that they currently find themselves in.
And if we just think of the teams right now that are fighting for that 4th place spot, which are Splyce, Roccat, and Schalke, getting 3 points right here for Splyce, and given that Roccat actually went 0-2 today against Origin, will mean that Splyce can start to solidify themselves a little bit more in the middle of the pack. So definitely an important win for Splyce to pick themselves up. And with the composition that they do have, I actually just straight up like it more. I think that it offers a lot. You have really nice scaling into the late game. Your early game is a little bit weak, but with the Zyra, you actually make up for that. Also with the Rek'Sai too. So I actually like Splyce's composition overall, but the question is how well are they going to be able to set up against so much displacement on Giants?
Yeah, the only caveat that I think I see when I look at Splyce is how do they plan on taking a tower on even footing? You know, I think if they can punish a team fight, if they can re-engage and win, obviously they've got tons of tools there, but I don't know, it could be challenging. Although they could also just zone everybody away with the Nivea and Zyra if they ward their flanks properly.
The thing is, from Splyce, they actually have way more wave clear compared to Giants. They also have better poke than Giants, and when you're going up to a turret versus an Anivia, you have to be very mindful, because what she can do is she can just throw the wall up, and then she just puts her ultimate in a place that's forcing you into a certain direction, and then that results in making it a very easy Q land for the Anivia. So in terms of their siege, taking the turrets might be a little bit slow, but the actual setup and forcing your opponents away from turrets is actually quite doable from Anivia, especially in the mid to late game.
Can't afford to make mistakes against the Gragas engage, though. Right, hassling Splyce, getting in their face with that Karma. Lane swap is underway, and Mickey's making his way up through the jungle, leaving a trail of seeds in his wake. Gonna give some additional vision as and when people step over those, or information rather. And then Splyce are gonna be on this tower. They're gonna get some support from Wunder as well.
So I want to keep my eyes on the 280 carries, because in game 1 we saw a significant difference in terms of CS between Corby and Sonstar. Corby was leaps and bounds ahead in terms of the farm department, and I'd like to see if the same thing happens in this game. So moving forward, hopefully the lane swaps will come out even for both sides. Likely that the top laners will suffer quite a lot. And I'm actually quite excited to see Smitty J on this Aurelia, because he did play the tank in the last game. We talked about in Champions Select how we would like to see him on something a little bit more backline threat heavy, and Aurelia is champion just for that.
One game in the past, 2-2, it was a loss, so not the greatest of showing. Taking a look at pick ban history, actually I can see we've kind of forgot the Hustlins played 3 Northless games. So that was why it was banned.
My bad.
No, I have the information in front of me too. Flash Frost and Frostbite catches Knight out. He's doing a good job farming. Wave is pushing towards him as well, so Senkux burned through his mana pool, and the Wave is pushing away from him, so this is going to be good signs for Knight.
So I love talking about mid lane matchups, so I'm going to put my 2 cents. Obviously you were talking to a couple of professional mid laners about this matchup. My take on it is at 1 to 5, Knight will typically have the advantage. He can control the wave. It's quite easy for him to trade with Senkux, and typically you can push the Anivia under turret, because unless you burn all of your mana, there's no way you're going to be able to deal with the wave clear. But once you hit 6, it heavily swings in the other favor, because that ultimate makes it so hard for Knight to close the gap.
Wunder's in a little bit of trouble. Gets rooted down. Sunstar trying to catch up to Hustlin. Hustlin will find the route from the W, the resolve, and Wonder's able to just walk away. Play-by-plays get very excited at the potential kills, no matter how slim the odds are.
Well, I saw the Karma just running up to him, and I was like, Karma's got about as much CC as like a potato. I mean, it's not something that I would personally be very scared of.
How does a potato root you?
Exactly, that's my point. But either way, Wonder able to walk away from that one. And,
ladies and gentlemen,
the
motivational poster with Vedius. Week number 2. As much CC as a potato.
As much CC as a potato.
All right, we're going to create a library.
Just a wall of quotes from Vedius.
Yep.
That's the Badger is my favorite.
There we go. We'll see which one is the best of the worst, I think, is how I'll look at that one. No real surprises in terms of the lane swap. Cloud Dragon is available as Dragon number 1. We'll see how long it takes these guys to prioritize it or focus it. Trashy was lingering in the mid lane, but good luck catching a Flash Ghost Vladimir.
Yep.
That is optimistic at best, but at least he's there for a potential counter gank if Maxlaw wanted to jump on a Senko's.
Looks like Smitty J maybe not getting the most optimal bounce back in the bottom lane. Could come to hurt him slightly later on, but ooh, it does look like a gank might be coming out on tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think there was a gank. I think they're just going to shove the wave out, move away. Grasping roots.
Potato versus vegetable.
I think it's the same thing. I think
that is the same thing. I don't know where I was going with that.
Mickey has got a small level advantage. And Cobby again, CS advantage. Plus 10 out of the lane swap. As well as some support. Sunstar and Maxlaw. They're going to look for Wonder. Flash away from the root. And teleport actually comes out from Smitty J. Maxlaw's flashed for this run. There's no tower to fall back to. Body slam into Wonder. He's running for his life. Flash has been burned. Smitty J can flash. Equilibrium applies the slow. Frozen Domain will give some time. Wonder's trying to run for his life, but the barrel comes down. First blood to Giants.
So Maxlaw has to invest a lot to actually get that kill. After the initial flash, he had no body slam available, so I was a little bit worried as to whether or not he was actually going to be able to get that kill, but Giants, they get themselves first blood, they punish the overextension of Wonder, and getting that early kill on the board is definitely going to be in their favor. Unfortunately, it does go on to Maxlaw. Preferably, you'd want that on the Aurelia, who did invest his teleport, but still, they managed to push the wave underneath the turret. That's going to bounce back in favor of Smitty J, and that's going to be better for Smitty J moving forward.
Teleports, 2 flashes for first blood and a flash from Wonder.
Ooh, Hustlin.
Splyce almost catch Hustlin out. The one thing you do also need to note is Sunstar, he started that initial play and was away from the lane. He's already down 11 CS to Cobby, but has got a wave in front of him. I think it's pushing away from Sunstar though, so we're going to do a better job at tracking their CS as we progress through this early to mid game.
So, something that we actually saw in game 1 was, or something that we discussed was perhaps the lack of optimization of the use of the teleports coming out from Splyce. And largely, I think we can put that underneath the overarching thing of neither of these teams really look for a huge number of proactive plays. They tend to go for an objective and they force their opponents to react. And if you kind of want to be at the top of the LCS, you need to be looking to make those plays for yourself, setting up the opportunities for your own personal gain. And with this first blood coming out from Giants, that does suggest the glimmer of hope, but it does make me wonder moving forward how much both these teams are actually going to be looking to make these plays, or are we going to see another 50-minute slugfest of just going back and forth?
Hey, look, I think a small part to answer that question, 2 tiers of the goddess on the side of Splyce. And as, you know,
symbolizing my sadness.
Everybody knows that means you need to slow things down, get those stacking.
For Splyce, though.
It's power trough time for Splyce.
Yes.
They're in the dip, but when that dip fills up, power spike time. If they couple that with a locket, they're golden. As Knights is forced to run away.
For that, mate.
There we go. That'll work too. That'll work too. Expecting that on maybe Mickey if he gets far enough ahead. Although Haunting Guys is more likely the cause. Mickey's going to be standing in front of Maxlaw and Knight. Stood right on top of a ward, so Maxlaw knows, and Mickey just gets deleted. Sunstar with a deadly flourish. picks up Giant's second kill.
Wow, Mickey was not expecting that damage. This is the thing about Zyra. Low mobility, super squishy mage, has one of the lowest base healths in the game, does have the Sightstone completed, but it's just not enough to deal with the burst coming out from Giants, and they get themselves another kill.
This time it lands in Sunstar's hands, which is so, so crucial. Taking a look at the CS differences, Kobe still marginally up. Knight again winning the CS situation as here we go, Mickey just gets caught.
Yeah, it's just a quick 1-2. Knock into the range of Knight, who is already prepping up his Tides of Bloods. Get a very quick and easy kill down onto Mickey, who's now only level 4. It's a level 4 of Hustling as well. But have a look at the positioning of Trashy right now. He might be able to get away from this one, as Mickey is there to provide support.
Forced to burrow away. Splyce could be surrounded though. There are a number of Giants members coming in, but actually, maybe it's Splyce that want this fight. Splyce are running. Hemo Plague is down. Kobe gets tagged with one, forced to flash away. Already used the Arcane Shift. Look at the damage from that Hemo Plague. Kobe was in trouble.
So this is one of the problems that you have when there's not enough hard crowd control in your team. While if they just had a little bit more CC, they could have set up a really good play there, especially with the fact that Kobe not having that many items right now, as you mentioned, the item trough that he's currently sitting in. But still, they were able to force the flash out of Kobe, which is always a good thing to have, as Sunstar takes a chunk of damage from Senkux, who is level 9. He needs to be very mindful of this. Senkux has decided to go for the Ignite, so he does have a lot of kill threat onto Sunstar if he's not careful enough.
Slightly different approach to this early game now. Giants, they seem more alive, you know, on the map. Although, wait, hold that thought, because Sunstar may not be alive. Actually, it's Hustling. He gets caught by the Grasping Roots, flashes away from the knock-up, and wants to maybe turn this one around into Trashy. Deadly Flourish goes out towards Senkux, a good crystallized wall. Flash Frost into Frostbite. Hustling, summon a heal, buy some time. The shield keeps him staying alive. Sidesteps away from the roots, and Mickey can't find anything more. So close to a kill, but a bunch of summoners gained.
Certainly was. Hustling had to use his exhaust there to mitigate the damage that was coming out from Splyce, but this is one of the great plays that you can make on an Evier. If you catch people off in a choke point, use the wall, you force them in a direction, makes landing that Q so much easier. But have a look at Wonder. He's got no tower.
No, he doesn't. Flashes from the barrel, sends him towards the wall. Smitty J dashes over, throwing out the blades, and Smitty's continuing to run. Will not be able to chase him past Senkux's Crystallize. Summon a spell again. Maxlaw trades his for Wonders.
So, good setup once again coming out from Maxlaw. Wonder, now that he has his Subjugate, is tanky enough to be able to get out of that one. But Splyce, they're 3 members strong in the bottom half of the map because Giants, they want to commit to this Rift Herald. It is 12.5 minutes into the game. Could get some decent value out of this, but they are going to lose a lot of health on this tier 2 turret in the bottom.
Yeah, Splyce have been pushing that tower all game long. Smitty is able to pick up a Rift Herald buff, Eye of the Void. And I think that's very important. He's down in CS marginally, and I think wants to be going toe-to-toe with Trundle. So this will help him out as Trundle continues to scale up and start itemizing those tanky stats. Cloud Drake, unchallenged. Splyce are the ones that grab it.
Certainly will be. This is something about the Cloud Drake that you will come to know and love, which is usually that teams won't often fight over it. They'll just take it when they can. It's like the last donut in the cake shop. Just like, well, do you want it?
No, I fought over that one.
Oh, you
I have fought over that one.
Coming at the end of the day, you and a rival co-caster, both after that donut.
The only thing if it's a cinnamon roll, things are going down.
Well, unfortunately, the Cloud Drake is no cinnamon roll.
No, especially not the pro players. Smitty J, a little bit of trouble, but still has flash available. Still got those Transcendent Blades for any sort of healing that he might want. Easily able to deal with it. Look at the warding on the minimap, because I felt both teams slightly lackluster in game 1. So I'd like to see how they make use of it as we progress in the series.
And this ties into what we were discussing earlier about setting up those proactive plays. You do need to have good vision control, whether that be deep vision or just setting up vision around objectives. And to be fair, I would argue that both teams have done a decent job of controlling the objectives that they want to fight over. Good management over their pink wards, and you can actually see a lot of pink wards sitting in the inventories of both teams. So when they want to make a play around an objective in particular, they are quite good at setting that vision up. What they're not great at is just generic vision during the downtime when there's not an objective on the map to play. And that is resulting in both teams getting caught out of position, and often why Wunder is in this situation where he's always flashing away from Maxwell's ganks.
Yeah. Wunder's still got a serious advantage despite the pressure, because I think he's been ganked, what, like 3 times already at 15 minutes? Both teams are even in gold, even in towers, and Splyce are fully committed to this late game. Rod of Ages after the tier for Senkax's Anivia, so there's a lot of scaling time to be coming in here.
But the big thing for Splyce right now is we talked about their composition and how in terms of what it provides, it's actually relatively well-rounded. You have pretty good objective control, good wave clear. But what they can't deal with is this 1-3-1 setup as Trashy takes a bit of damage. Knight is there, but Trashy going to be able to tunnel out of that one. But yeah, this 1-3-1 setup, who's going to be able to deal with both Knight and Smitty J once they have their big items completed? Spirit Visage done, Trinity Force being worked on by Smitty J. And yes, Wonder he's going to be able to deal with one, but can he deal with both?
Oh, look at this. Copy's hanging out. Mickey stands firm. Knight running in, looking for a kill, not going to be able to find it. Sidesteps from Senkax. He's dodged 1, dodged 2, dodged 3. A 4th skill shot tags him. And I think Sonstar held on to the final bullet.
Yep.
There's Giants trying to make plays. I really like Mickey. He knew Knight was coming at him, landed the grasping roots, waited for Cobby, waited for Cobby to put some damage down, and that was enough to thwart potential attempt on Mickey's life.
And you saw right there the big problem that Vladimir does have. When you have to just run at enemies, when you have all this big AoE abilities, it becomes very difficult for you to actually close the gap.
The only thing that I am excited to see when we get there, Ghost in, Proto Belt over a grasping root, or flash over it, and then Proto Belt.
You'd have to sidestep.
1 then 2.
Yeah.
1 then 2.
Yeah, you could do that.
There's a lot of distance you can cover with those 2 abilities.
But it does also mean burning your flash to dive into 5 members of the enemy team. So.
Vladimir, you're Vladimir. It's what you want to do.
If you're fed, yeah. I mean, what Vlads have you met? But
the Vlads of my nightmares.
You definitely want to close the gap. You also have to be very mindful that because you... nice engage from Maxlaw, but no team to follow up.
No, not yet. Mickey just flashes over the wall. Grasping Roots doesn't find a target. Remember, there's no Stranglethorns. It was used earlier in the fight. Wonder has teleported in from behind, but he may not want to be here. There's Knight in the front line. Hemoplague was used and didn't really find a target. I think everyone got out of range. And Giants unable to really make anything stick.
That was actually a really good wall from Senkax. He caught Knight in a really awkward position because you can't pull underneath the wall, which meant that he was forced to use his flash. And now he's not going to have it available for that aggressive play that Quickshot was so excited to see. But he is working towards that Proto Belt, so at least he's going to have 50% of the combo available.
I'm going to double check. I feel like the Hemoplague whiffed. I think everyone got out of range, so...
I think he did hit it, but he couldn't really follow up with any further damage. So
makes sense. And also, there's not exactly a whole lot of ability power.
No.
59 AP with the Lucy Boots and Spirit Visage.
Loosey-goosey. Got to be all loosey-goosey with the Lucy Boots. As Wonder now getting collapsed on.
Once again, Wonder has seen this movie many, many times and is able to get away with his life this time round. But a very clear focus on who Giants are trying to unlock, I feel. If Smitty J can keep pressure on the side lanes, it then allows Maxlaw and Knight to look for engages elsewhere. But Smitty J, he's the one that's now in trouble. Chilling Smite comes out from Trashy, and knock up from the Unburrowed. Smitty's running for his life, gets chomped down, and a furious bite from Trashy sends him packing.
And just comes back to vision, which is exactly what we were talking about earlier. When it comes to just the downtime, when neither team is really playing around objective, the vision does lack. Smitty J wanted to just shove the turret up, shove the wave, up to the turret, but he did it without any knowledge of where Trashy was, and he knew that Maxlaw wasn't in an area to support him, and so he just gives away a free kill. And this is something that these teams, the teams at the LCS, really shouldn't be making.
Yeah. Especially when you consider what the cost is. All of the tempo that you build up, all of the pressure that you apply to Splyce gets completely relieved. It allows Splyce to not only get the kill, the first of the game, back away, and potentially get in position for Dragon. Splyce have got one ward behind that Dragon Pit, and a teleport is not available for Wonder, nor is it for Smitty, so Wonder's going to be the first one to peel back. control in favor of Splyce.
Yeah, notice that Sunstar caught a little bit out of position, forced to use his flash, which is going to be really big moving forward for Splyce. Maxwell looking for the engage.
He's going to find it, knocks Mickey under the tower. Mickey gets caught out. Going to trade jungler for support. I think Splyce should be happy for now. Knight's running amok on the front line. Transfusion after transfusion. Tides of blood. Dashes. Wonder where's health. And finally a Sanguine pool to get out alive. Splyce are still very healthy though. With the exception of Wonder and the mana pool from Senkux, should be able to defend the tower.
So 1-for-1 overall. Giants going for the engage, but they're putting a little bit too much emphasis onto shutting down Mickey. He is only the support. He's not really the target that you need to be afraid of moving forward. It is this Anivia and this Ezreal who, unfortunately for Maxlaw, wasn't really able to lock down. So you see the engagement. He didn't even aim for Senkux. His priority was always on getting the kill onto Mickey. And then, because they have no real hard crowd control, there's no way for them to get any real follow-up. Even though Wonder, he has no mana, he is basically on no health. They're still not quite able to get the kill.
No, they're not. And oh, look at that. Wow, Senkux, I think he flashed forward for that one. Picks up a kill in the Somstar, gets egged, turned into breakfast here under the tower. On the backline, Trashy and Mickey trying to do more. Barrel connects from Maxlaw's. Trashy's still running away with his life. Didn't see the setup for that one, but they come away again 1-for-1. But I think more damaging. Oh, look at this. Tides of blood plus transfusion. That's 30%. Cobby's running, flashes away from the next Tides of blood.
So both mid laners forcing flashes and summoner spells out of their opponent AD carry. Senkux goes very hard onto getting that kill onto Sunstar, which results in him giving away not only his egg, but also his life. And when we look at last week where Senkux didn't even die on Anivia, he's now already started to affect that Anivia KDA. It's now no longer infinite.
It's not. Now it is defined.
Yes, it is defined. So
still good. One more cuts it in half.
It's all right. It's all right. But yep. So having a look at the state of the game right now, Splyce do currently lead. A couple of items have been picked up. The proto belt is finished as well for Knight, so
goody.
Gonna be easier for him to dive onto the back. Goody.
Yes, that is my exact response. Proto belt is available. Ghost has just become available. Flash is available.
But Anivia is also in the game.
Yeah, but I don't care. You can flash over that wall. I have faith in Knight. We talked about his kill share and his kill participation and how crucial he is for Giants. I think he's going to go just a little bit crazy in some of these fights.
Well, I'll tell you who has definitely been having a big impact this game, and that is Maxlaw. 100% kill contribution so far. Has been setting up a lot of ganks all over the map.
All four of them?
All four of them. This bloodbath of a game. I feel like Giants need to slow down.
But I think, no, I do joke a little bit. Maxwell's had very good explosive casks. Multiple times he's knocked a squishy member, which has then resulted in flashes. And Dragon is being started here. Knight charging up that Tides of Blood. Transfusion is available to him. But look at this, there's no damage on Dragon. It's taking very, very low. Slighted away. It's Splyce that picked this one up. Crystallized walls on the back line. Sunstar's got a safe position. Body slam away to safety. Giants, that was a little awkward. They didn't really commit for the Dragon. They didn't really commit for the fight. They do now. The barrel splits up. Splyce.
Nice.
SPJ's got one. Senkux is down. There is no egg available. The deadly flourish roots Mickey on the back line. Taking a look at the final call. The curtain call. It's not going to pick up a kill just yet. It will on the back end. Cobby goes down. Giants find 3.
Great patience from Maxlaw to wait for Splyce to just ever so slightly overcommit. They get the barrel down onto Senkux, and that is the target that they need to be shutting down. Forget the Zyra. She's not the main damage dealer. Shut down Senkux and ruin his KDA.
That's exactly what they're planning to do, though I think the point of a potential drawn series is what matters. Yeah, Trashy, no smite available. Taking a look at the cooldown, there's another 6 seconds. May it be up for a potential steal. Wonder's coming in as well. Giants are going low. 4,000 hit points, 2,000 hit points. Baron's going down. Trashy's rooted in place. Baron below 1,800. Trashy forced away. Tunnels forward. Oh! He's got it! He steals it! Picks up a kill on tonight. Splyce aren't done. They turn their attention over to Wonder. Wonder's now trying to get more into Maxlaw. Trashy gives his life, but takes the Baron. True Shot Barrage tags Giants as the Ice Pillar comes up. Mickey's in trouble, gets chunked down. A lot of damage from Irelia. Mickey survives, but Splyce take the Baron.
Oh, Giants. You had one job, and that was not throw the game. You only had to be happy with the kills. You could take the tier 1 turret in the mid. Yes, you could have gone for the Baron play, but you did not play around Trashy effectively, and you enabled him to get the steal. So let's just backtrack for a second. Let's see how things went right for Giants before we see how things went so right for Splyce. So Maxlaw, they know they have vision control around here. He just patiently moves into the bush, waits for Splyce to overextend. The moment he sees Senkux overcommit, he knocks him into his team, and they quickly get the pickup. And then after that, there's no more zone control to stop the rest of Giants from cleaning up the fight. And then Knight just goes to town on the backline with Sunstar picking up that quick and easy kill. They feel confident. They want to go for the Baron play. And the damage a little bit low this early on. Trash, he's sitting there at full health, and he just buys so much time. Him and Wonderwear doing so much work on the front of the pit. The clear on the Baron just isn't good enough, and just keep your eyes on Splash. He comes under the wall. Oh, it was actually a big crit coming out from Sunstar. Maxlaw didn't expect the damage to come out. Trashy read it quickly and was able to get that smite still down. Just a bit of poor communication coming out from Giants, giving that one away.
You can see that HP bar, 1200 to 500, and that's what allowed Trashy to steal it. So, take stock of the situation as we come out of that extended replay. 25 minutes on the clock. Splyce are up 4,000 gold despite being down in kills. They've got themselves 2 additional towers. Correction, 3 additional towers. And Splyce can look to control, correction, 4 additional towers, as now Splyce can look to completely take control of this game.
This is going to be so hard for Giants to come back from this. That Baron was do or die. If they'd picked it up, they were looking great, but if they lost it, there's just so little that they can do, because now there's no real way for them to engage onto the Splyce unless Maxwell gets a flank engage.
He's looking for it. Flash is available, as is the cask. Sunstar, a deadly flourish route could be so impactful. The body slam. Flash gets Cobby and Mickey. Cobby's running for his life. The first shot from Curtain Call goes wide, as does the second. 1 remaining. Does not find a member of Splyce. And Splyce are able to back away, look to re-engage. Wonder did not even flinch. Continues to pressure that mid lane.
There's the power of the disengage coming out from Splyce, even though the initial initiation coming out from Maxlaw was great. It was just the ultimate. Oh, Knight taking a lot of damage.
He is indeed. Flash Frost doesn't stun him, is able to survive with Sanguine Pool. The tower's taken down at only 27 minutes. The base is open. No Stranglethorns available. A lot of pressure on Senkux. Follow his mana pool. If that goes low, Splyce are in trouble. But they'll be content. They back away. Over 1,000 gold on every single member. Over 2,000 gold for Cobby. And they're just going to extend their itemization advantages further.
The disengage is just too strong from Splyce. Even though Giants get the initiation that they want, the initiation that has been working for them throughout that game, it just isn't enough to close the gap against Splyce, who are now so far ahead in this game. And it all stems off of a single Baron play, and it just winds back into what you and I have been discussing so much throughout this series, which is the questionable decision-making that we have been seeing throughout both of these teams' plays. We felt like Splyce definitely slightly higher up in terms of making the plays, and from what we've seen and the way in which they reacted to that Baron was phenomenal, but Giants, the one thing that is holding them back really is deciding when to force these objectives and when to just back off and be happy with what you've got.
What Splyce have got, 2 Cloud Drakes. Third one spawning shortly. Get all that movement speed.
Gotta go fast.
Gotta go real fast. And some Executioner's Calling picked up for Cobby. That's gonna help out. Trashy's in trouble. It's caught up by Explosive Cask. Another Curtain Call. Optimistic at best. Trashy just face tanks that one. Did pick himself up the locket. I'm a fan of that.
Gotta be honest that Sunstar's accuracy with the ultimate, not the best. Hasn't quite been on point with those Curtain Call shots, but still.
I mean, this is the second time we've seen him play Chen. Last time was a loss. He went 1-1 and 3, so very, very little impact in the game. Now, this is a little unfair on a team who has very limited victories in the LCS.
Yeah.
But going to go all the way back to our pregame. We mentioned that Giants still looking for their identity, still trying to find what it is that they do well as a team, because they've got individually talented players. Giants will take a Dragon uncontested. But when it comes to the team dynamic and when it comes to playing the map, making strategic plays, you know, there's these flickers of brilliance, there's moments that are good, but it doesn't add up to be collectively regularly good.
No, unfortunately, it does not. I quite like that play coming out from Splyce, where they basically said, you know what, you have a Cloud Break. We've got enough. I mean, we're fine. You take this one. As now, Giants will be able to move around the map ever so slightly faster. But just taking stock of some of the items that have been completed. Anivia actually deciding to go for the Rylai's Morellos, stacking up a lot of mana into the then Void Staff. Still hasn't decided to upgrade into that Archangel Staff, which is a little bit surprising, but he hasn't quite fully stacked it yet. Still valuing that high cooldown reduction, and having just picked up that blue, he's likely going to be capping out relatively soon.
Well, on 356 AP with the current build, Knights, he picked up the Hourglass not too long ago, only on 216 AP, so still building up some of that ability power, charging up.
The reason he's built the Morello is obviously full of Vladimir, Grievous Runes. Does make a lot of sense thinking a little bit more about it. And pretty much that is how Splyce are itemizing right now. I feel like the whole pick and ban was for dealing with the Vladimir, which they've done a decent job of so far, as that is all 4 shots missing onto Mickey.
Mickey's wearing those blue sage shoes and he's just tap dancing around. Sunstar cannot find a target. By the way, Wonder is a level advantage over Smitty J. Forced away, even off his frozen domain. Doesn't get caught down by the deadly flourish. Very, very good pillar of ice, which in this case is a trophy. Flash for flash. The rest of Splyce, they're on Baron. They've started it, starting to burn it down. Wonder where it's going to teleport in. Sorry, Wonder. And turns her attention. Defensive flash from Smitty. Explosive cast from Maxwell. Splits up Splyce, but Mickey's been able to back away. The damage is coming down. Cobby's already taken down Maxwell. Sunstar took way too long to get to the fight. It's a double kill for Cobby. He got a quadra kill in game 1. Can he do it again? A golden knight in the mid lane. He will be the target. Knocked up by Trashy, by the Unburrow. Very good crystallize. Allows a triple kill for Cobby. He's not done yet. Mystic shot. Finds Hustlin. Looking for more. There's a flash away as Sunstar's running for his life. A great pillar. Senkak steals the kill away, preventing the quadra. And this should open up an inhibitor or more for Splyce.
Really smart play from Splyce, noticing that Sunstar had gone down to the bottom lane to try and get a gank down onto Wonder. Because of the positional advantage that Splyce had, they forced the Baron, they forced Giants to quickly react in an unoptimal position. They go for the fight 4v5, and things just go horribly wrong for them as Sunstar, he is just slowly being bled away.
He really is. He just wants to recall. Make it stop, Senkaks. He manages to pick up a kill. As the inhibitor is taken out in the mid lane, is taken out in the bottom lane. And Splyce are backing away. They've got a 10,000 gold lead. They've got supers. And it should just be a matter of time before they take down the Nexus.
All they need to do now is go towards the Baron, set up good vision control already. You can see Trashy making his way there. And once they pick that Baron up, they can look to close out the game. So have a look at this coming out from Splyce. So much zone control coming out from the Anivia. Forces Giants to group up in this choke point. And then not only do you have the Zyra ultimate there, that's going to quickly follow up by the Anivia wall. And Giants just cannot close the gap. Trying to get all that damage out onto Mickey. Again, not the target you want to be focusing down. And that just results in Cobby and Senkaks being able to clean up the fight.
And they did that so exceptionally well. Crystallized wall blocks off any attempt here from Giants. Baron going down fairly slowly, in fact, but look at the minimap. Smitty J and Sunstar nowhere near. Not able to contest. And, you know, when you're ahead, it's much easier to make calls, but Splyce look much more coordinated this time around. Maxwell throws out the cask. There's no damage to follow it up. Maxwell's already down. Stranglethorn zoned away any potential re-engage. Splyce, they are a little bit split up. Smitty J, he's looking for Cobby, will not find him. Smitty J's in trouble now. I think he's still got the egg available. Flash Frost won't stun Knight. It's a triple kill for Cobby. Will he find the quadra this time around? Sanguine Pool comes out. Senkaks actually gets egged. Knight continues to run for his life as Trashy's chasing him down. On the minimap, Splyce are peeling into the base. That heal is monstrous. Knight's not done yet. Gonna do what he can against these minions. Trashy buffing them up and making life difficult. The rest of Splyce, they're onto the Nexus turrets. The Queen of the Xerxai taking on... Is it the Blood Mage? No, he's not Blood. I'll have to remember that one.
Lord.
The Blood Lord Vladimir. Does not matter. First pick is irrelevant. Splyce pick up a 2-0 victory and a convincing win in the second game of the series.
And it all comes down to that one Baron play, which was initially set up with Giants being in the favorable position. They were going to be able to put up a really strong fight. They had the great leads. So many good ganks coming out from Maxlaw. Sonstar getting a very early kill. Things looked bright for Giants early on, and then they go for that Baron play. They don't play around Trashy. He gets the steal. And to be fair, I wouldn't even call it 50-50. It was the way they set it up. It was always going to be Trashy's Baron.
Oh, I'm not quite sure I'd be that confident. I think in a 2v5, it's always going to be risky. But what I do like, if you go all the way back to picks and bans, leaving the Vladimir out, the Crimson Reaper, that's what his correct title is. You had predicted the Anivia, Senkux has done it before. The Trundle pick, the Ezreal pick, the Zyra pick. Splyce were anticipating the Vladimir, and they had a game plan, and they executed their game plan well. That's what I like to see. Unlike game one, where their game plan of the double teleports, the picking, the backline, it took very, very long to actually get that ball rolling.
But the one thing we did really see from both teams was vision control during the downtime. Yeah. Because when it came to setting up for objectives, I think we can both agree the vision control was actually very good. Yep. They knew how to use pink wards when they wanted to make Baron plays, Dragon plays, even if they wanted to go for something like an enemy blue or red. But when it comes to just downtime, laning, their defensive vision, even their slightly aggressive vision trying to identify where Maxlaw was and where Trashy was, just wasn't there. It wasn't existent. And I think that right now that is a big stepping stone that both teams need to overcome if they want to develop as a team and make their way up the stands. I
think it was also interesting to see how Splyce went from a very disjointed, disconnected team in game one to being a unit in game two. You know, their team comp was very well crafted, it was very well thought out, and they executed it well. Giants, on the other hand, they still have the same problems. They have individuals doing fantastic things at completely different moments. And unfortunately, they're not doing it together as a unit. And we're seeing, again, these disjointed team fights where multiple members of Giants are on the front line, the damage dealers aren't there, etc. So I think what I do like from Splyce this time around as well, the decisiveness. Contrast, again, from game one to game two.
And, I mean, to me, it's just that quote from Deficio that's sticking in my head. As players, they're really talented. They are good players. But as a team, it's just not there. They're not meshing well enough to really take games off these middle-of-the-pack teams. So if they can find that synergy, if they can find that unity, then things look promising for Giants. But Splyce can't take anything away from them. Still a very strong team.
It also gives us a slightly clearer picture in terms of this middle to bottom tier of the table. You know, with Giants picking up a win over UOL last week, those question marks start creeping in, and then you see Splyce, close game one, much more convincing game two. They then take down Giants, so that puts then this additional clear gap. So we're starting to see these very clear divides in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 through 10.
We certainly are, and we still have more games tomorrow, so there's plenty of opportunities for Giants to bounce back. But I can't emphasize how great Splyce really have been playing. Especially, it's interesting how in game one it always seems to be that Mickey has a really good performance in his Thresh. You heard it from Crepo how a lot of his hooks are actually really pivotal and actually setting up the plays, landing so many good hooks onto Maxlaw and so many good hooks onto Knight as well. Then in game two, it seems to be Senkux that's stepping up. Yes, Senkux had a great game on Fizz in game one, and he was a large part as to why they were able to make plays. But his Anivia play has just been so solid, and his use of ultimates and his just understanding of the champion is really impressive.
It's interesting, though, because like Senkux is showing that he's the mid laner that helps his team, but he's not the mid laner that is going to win the lane. Now, again, I think the matchups are challenging for him. You know, he's had 2 tough matchups for the early levels, which puts him a little bit behind, and then, he maintains that gap. But it's very good to see Senkux continuing to grow, because for weeks 1 and 2, it was the Cobby and the Trashy show. And Mickey, on the sidelines, waving the Splyce flag. But I think this week, we're starting to see Senkux step into that carry role, step into a position where the team is like, you need to beat Vlad. Like, you are picking the counter that we feel you have to win with, and you have to have confidence to deliver that performance.
You certainly do. And I'm just overall impressed with Splyce. I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring out tomorrow and how they do throughout the rest of the split.
As am I. We have got the Q. The analyst desk is ready to break down the game and head over to the PGL. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Trevor. And yes, with today's games behind us, it is time to load into the post-game lobby, and we already did. We're going to recap all of the action today, starting with the last series. And of course, joining us here is Trashy, 2-0 on the day versus Giants. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Well, let's start straight by talking about that series, because the first thing you said when you sat down here was it didn't feel like a win as much as we would want it to. What's your perspective on that?
It's kind of weird. I think this is the first time where we're going into a game and we're the favorites, right? People expect us to show good play and maybe just win against Giants pretty easily in a way. But today was not easy at all. I think the series could easily win 2-0 for them or 1-1. But I mean, I'm happy that we won, but I'm not satisfied with the way we played at all.
Is that actually something that factored into your mentality? Because if we go all the way back to the start of Game 1, you guys had a really good gank there, I think, on Smitty. Then you went mid, really good gank onto Knight. Everything was going fine. By 10 minutes, you guys were 3-0 up. But then you started, in my opinion, overreaching for some of these ganks.
Yeah.
Almost taking it to a solo kill level where you're just like, okay, any move I make will result in a kill. But they countered it.
Yeah, it became a bit of a clown game at that point. I was dying like left and right, and now I had to like refocus and say like now calm down a bit. I know they have like outscaling comp, but we need to not just overreach for kills and play it more slow, and it helped a bit.
Did you feel like perhaps it was a limitation that you guys couldn't do too much outside of a hook landing in Game 1? Was that a problem with what you guys were running?
No, not necessarily. What we did wrong is that we focused too much around the mid lane. What we want to do is we want to spread out the map, and then, for example, if Lucian shows on a side and then Olaf is pressuring the Maokai top, then Fizz can support with TP. Like we were not playing the map correctly at all, and that was the problem for sure.
I definitely think in that matchup, want to echo what Josh is saying here. Like, you guys seem to try and like fix the broken Fizz Azir matchup once behind, but once you guys actually spread out Fizz to a side lane, top laner it was Olaf to the other one, and you guys had a couple double TP plays. That's when you started really working together with the comp. The point I want to get to actually is now with Mickey in there, replacing Nisbeth, I feel like Splyce can now win some of those games where you guys start struggling and throwing your lead, you know, that you did last split as well, and then you would just slowly bleed to death. I think with the introduction of Mickey, it seems that you guys can actually come back in these games. One, do you feel like that? And two, what is he contributing that makes it so?
I think one part that has nothing to do with Mickey is that overall our understanding of the game, everyone has grown so much that we can easier like recognize we need to do this and this now, else this is the only thing we can do, for example. So, but on the other hand, Mickey is so talented that he can make those crucial plays that will turn the game around. So, I think it's a mix of things.
Yeah. Do you also look at the game differently? You mentioned, hey, it was because we were looked at as favorites. Maybe that's why we weren't as happy with the loss. How much of a change is that? The fact that people look at you that way?
This is probably the first time in my career as a pro player where people expect a lot from me and my team to show that we're not just some bottom team that is gonna be a bit of a relegation team or relegated team, right? So it's a new mindset, and we have to understand this as well. But I think our coach is doing a great job of keeping us down a bit, not getting too hypey about it, and just focus on each game.
So is that something you anticipated already at the end of last week coming into this week's games, or is that when you got closer and closer to this series that you actually realized, oh wait, this is something we need to actually address as a team?
I think it's something to do with last. Obviously, the first week has been pretty decent for us. I don't think we have done anything like super special or anything. But yeah, like when it also comes down to how we do in practice. How we do in practice has kind of set us up to also have high expectations for ourselves.
Yeah, we just saw some clips here from both of your series. I feel like individual players are more often stepping up for Splyce, especially Kabe, because if I'm honest, for me he was invisible. I couldn't remember a single instance in Spring Split where I was like, damn, you know, Kabe carried that game, or he really stood out. So I had, honestly, a poor opinion of him. But it does seem that the introduction of Mickey, or, you know, as you said, him leveling up individually now with a good support, has really unleashed him, because he's definitely stepping into the space in a lot of these team fights, and obviously get some of these quadra kills, whether they're like fully his quadra kills or not. But he's definitely delivering a lot more in team fights. Can you see his confidence grow as well, or is he just still the same player to you?
For me, he's still the same player. He's the copy carry. Like, he is best Lucian in Europe, in my opinion. But that's another story. But obviously, I've always seen him as a really, really good player. And it's so weird because when you play in an LCS team, there is this all that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see, that we live in a daily basis. And when you don't succeed on stage, it's kind of heartbreaking in a way, because you lose a lot of the power, like what you can do in game, and you maybe gonna play more passive. I have felt that too, like in my past, because I haven't always been the best player on stage. So it's definitely a rough scenario, but I'm just really happy that we are playing well now.
I feel almost that goes for the whole lineup of Splyce. You said I never really noticed Kobe. I think that we didn't notice a lot of your players in the end of spring. It didn't seem like you could find the momentum, and it definitely seems like you've turned it around. Our player of the game in this one is Wonder, for this one specifically. It was Senkux in game 1, and those are two very interesting ones for me, because Senkux is always someone we looked at. Do you know if he had... there was high expectations around him. There's always this European mids, and looking at him, is that something that he personally really took to heart?
Not too much. I think the main thing about our team is that we want to work as a team, and we don't want to have like, oh, this guy, if this guy doesn't carry, then we're not gonna win, or if this guy doesn't perform, then we're not gonna win. We aim for us playing the game as good as possible in every scenario. So it's just a team effort for us, and that's what I really like about our team.
Well, and did great here, 2-0 over Giants. Moving on to our next series, Roccat versus Origin. 2-0 for OG, first sweep of the summer for them. A very anticipated match for us, as Roccat was on the rise, and OG was also doing fairly well last week with 2 ties, but they clean sweep them.
So yeah, coming into this week, one of the narratives we kind of predicted is like, okay, Origin, they're going to play less around their bot lane, more around SOAS. Turns out, actually, they were playing more around Power of Evil as a central kind of pawn on the chessboard. SOAS did incredibly well in both lane swaps, kind of catching straight farm, and he got ahead of his lane opponent in the lane swap. But Power of Evil had a couple nice plays to come out of the woodwork, and especially in game 1. I always knew Xpeke had a nice Ashe, but he definitely confirmed it here in that game. He had some really nice arrows, so he definitely delivered that mid lane skill shot accuracy.
Right.
And it came to fruition here. So utility last week from Xpeke was Sivir. Didn't really work out that well. This time they got the Ashe for him, and it definitely worked wonders for the team, and Origin finally get the 2-0, which is great for them. In addition, Rockat's getting punished for not doing anything in the early game, which I absolutely despise. Late game team and all, but like, you gotta come to play the game.
Absolutely, and you know, that is my biggest disappointment with Roccat, is they even said last week and week 1, they were like, this is our weakness, we're going to go away and work on this. This is what we're going to work on this week. And they come back, and it's the worst week they've had for early games. They were down like nearly 6,500 gold at 20 in that second
And they
game.
almost came back, that's the worst part. Origin almost let them come back and have them like the title of comeback kings.
Yeah.
It's so weird for me to see Rocket struggle in the early game, because just from last season playing against them you were I wouldn't say you were terrified, but you knew that they would force hard on the mid 2v2 with Betsy and Awax, and most of the time it worked out really well for them. But this season, Awax has really gone downhill with his play. It's kind of, his play is kind of like high risk, high reward, right? So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm not too big of a fan of that kind of play style, especially now when we see like what happens if it kind of backfires a bit. So I think he needs to look at his play and maybe change up a bit. Maybe his play style doesn't work perfectly with the Rocket squad that they have now. Maybe just play it more slow when you have those big carries, I think. Would
you say that high risk, high reward jungling style has less opportunity right now with the state of how the early game plays out? We've seen a lot of the same lane swaps in today's games. Do you think that that's the case, and that just playing a very standard jungle game is actually just safer all around?
So my understanding of the jungle is that there's kind of 2 defined styles. There's like the high risk style, which is Airwax, it's kind of style, and then there's like the more control style. We see a guy like Bengi play this style, or Vision is
and
let's not go from like risk style to like sidestone jungler.
Yeah, I mean this is like the huge contrast of the styles, right? And I think a style in between is probably the most ideal. obviously for Bengi, it's pretty good because he has these great players where he can just ward for them and they will carry. So it's pretty easy. But yeah, I think you need to find a middle ground in between that works for you. Obviously, sometimes in games, let's say you're the bottom team and you play against the best team, maybe you try to take some risk in the early game and try to snowball. But if you have solid players overall, like I think Rocket has solid players overall, I think you can maybe play at a bit more controlled and do more like less risky play and then just play with what information you have.
Actually, I want to delve deeper on one of those topics, if the host allows me here.
You're allowed.
Thank you. So the side stone on the jungle has completely disappeared, right? But I feel, have you guys dabbled a lot in like 1-3-1 double TP comps? Because I feel right now you can't push your advantage because you just simply lack vision. Because your support, especially when it's a range support, they can't do anything on their own. They need babysitting. So you lack wards and you lack supports that can face check. And it seems like 1-3-1 doesn't come to fruition at all.
One of the big problems for us in the first game when we had Fizz was that we couldn't put deep enough vision on the Fizz side that he could pressure enough that we could pressure
capitalize in the mid lane.
Exactly. So I kind of agree, but you need to be able to get to that point where you can get the vision. Else your 1-3-1 will have a hard time for sure.
Yeah, it's also something we saw in Rocket in their losses in the early game. They also didn't have the vision and they got collapsed on.
Definitely, just a lot of these teams, like they set up 1-3-1, but then they forget what it's all about. Like back in the day, it used to be about taking these side lane turrets in like 1v1 matchups. Teams are good enough at defending, so you want a 1-3-1, fan out, and then make picks in between the lanes, right? Or get double TPs. But there's absolutely no vision because these Namis and these Jannas, they're useless when it comes to face checking. Yeah, they can really help your AD carry, but that's it. They're so afraid to put vision down that we get these really stale mid games with fog of war everywhere. And for me, I wonder if somebody's gonna make like Sidestone Rek'Sai come back in these 1-3-1 comps, or do you just lose too much dueling power?
I mean, in the games today, I opted for a Sidestone before I completed my jungle item every time because we went for the 1-3-1 pretty early. So I wanted to keep up the vision for our sides to be able to push. But I agree, it's super easy to just get level 9 and then sweep the whole area, and then you need to refresh vision, and then it becomes a game of like vision all the time. And I mean,
just base and run back. That's your job.
I mean, it's probably not enjoyable to watch from home. So yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing to watch, all of it.
We love League of Legends here. Definitely nothing is bad with
I mean, watching tactical good games is nice, but a brawl is also nice. It leads us to Fnatic versus Schalke. 2-0 for Fnatic after they were quite wobbly last week. They had that series versus H2K, which wasn't great, but here they did very well. And, you know, I gotta ask, the Schalke hype, was it unwarranted, or was it just a symptom of the week 1 teams trying to figure everything out? Where do we see this going?
I feel like, honestly, for Schalke right now, when you look at them, they're like the inverse Rocket. They actually still have a fairly decent early game to them, and that's where there's like these little areas of hype. But the problem is that Gilius, as we've talked about a couple of times, is just not able to really stand up to the rest of the junglers in the league. And Trashy, have you got any thoughts perhaps on that?
I think Gilius has what it takes. But I think the biggest problem for Gilius is that sometimes he gets like too eager to force something. Then you just have to go like maybe I'm getting a little bit behind, and then he forces a play, and then maybe it backfires, and then the game is lost. But like when we see those big moments when he plays against Unicorns, where he just 1v9 the game as Elise against Kindred, then you have to respect him in a way. But he also has those games against us where he was invisible and was not hitting anything. So he's kind of weird player for me to value. He has his up and down for sure.
Maybe he's just absorbing some failures right now, you know, to get a lot better.
Oh yeah,
that's what he was joking about. No, Gilius for me as a player, I think he needs to get a lot of more like stability in his play, both in his reactions to failures. In the moment, I think he can make it like relatively like assess the situation afterwards, but in the moment, definitely needs to work towards playing a lot more control. Is he one of those junglers that you would classify as high risk, high reward?
Yes, definitely. I think for me, what has changed over the summer is that I've been watching a lot of replays of like how Trick was playing, and kind of understand his thought process about like what he does and what he does for his team in terms of vision and setting up plays. And it made me understand that a lot of the things he does is not a lot of risk because he already has information to work with. So it might sound a bit weird, but I tried to copy his style a bit. And then play consistently. So I value very highly that you, as a jungler, have a consistent style of play, and I don't think he has that right now.
How much do you rate Trick higher than number 2 or anyone below them in the league?
I think he's one step higher than anyone else in the league.
Yeah, just I want to echo that because Trick's the style as well. Yes, it works because G2 had strong lanes. Because I feel for me, Trick goes in, places some vision, and that's his first piece of information, and then he uses that information for the next play he makes, and suddenly he's always like a move ahead. Or if he's at the same time, at least knows what move you're making. So he's very aware, and I think that was one of G2's strengths. Spirit for me played a similar style in Fnatic, but because his lanes weren't doing that well and his support didn't have the synergy, I guess he was failing. Right now he seems to change. I think we could classify him as like with the Kha'Zix pickups a lot of in that high risk, high reward category.
Obviously I'm not a big fan of Kha'Zix. I think it's way too
haven't you played it in my game once?
Probably in solo queue, but there's a big difference, you know. You can carry in solo queue, but on stage and in a professional game, it's a whole different story. But I think the people that are like pushing to get to a Trick's level is Jankos and Spirit, and obviously today H2K won, I think.
Yep. Well, they drew.
Oh, okay. I only watched the first
Everybody
game.
won.
Well, we have a recap from that in just a couple of seconds. So.
I will just wait for that one.
While we're on Spirit, it was good to see Fnatic pivoting from what we said was a fairly kind of linear playstyle. A lot of Kalista, a lot of Kha'Zix 4 games last week. They actually went and played meta now, which I think makes for a more dangerous Fnatic than one that's very easily read like H2K showed us last week. So I think that's a Fnatic that can very well improve from that. But I still kind of struggle with Gamsu at times, just because he just tends towards those tanks too much. And I think it becomes a limiting factor. Today we didn't see that from them, but again, I'm keeping my eyes on that for tomorrow.
Yep, another match I want to look at. Obviously, you just mentioned that you didn't see it. H2K versus G2, a tie, and it was really stomp and get stomped, or stomp or get stomped, rather, from both sides. In the first game, it was H2K, though. A lot of good setups by Vander on that Bard. Crabbo.
Didn't see it. I got tweets. Apparently, I should have been casting that game, so let's just take a look.
I think Bard was 1v9 this game.
Yeah, I mean, you just missed the Bard ult that actually sets this up. There was nothing happened before 20 minutes, just a standard lane swap. And then H2K just took back-to-back fights again and again. So many good ults from Vander, getting the lockdown, getting
I saw it. It really stopped moving on the minimap. He hit that ulti off screen. So Bard 1v9 is one of the most beautiful things to watch in League of Legends, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, you know what isn't beautiful? Seeing H2K get stomped in about 25 minutes, because Freeze dies level 1, burns his flash, burns his heal, then they go top lane, get 3 more kills, and Mithy was just on a rampage for the beginning of this game, and it transitioned into G2, kind of completing what you'd expect was like a scrim game, where it's like you get 5 kills before 5 minutes and suddenly the game's already over.
Oh, this was the horrible 3v1 trade there in the bottom lane that we got. I caught a glimpse of that. Yeah, that definitely seems like the entry of a scrim game where you're like, guys, can we get a remake? Does that still happen very often, Trashy? The remakes, or have teams started taking like losses in the early game seriously?
It really depends who you play against.
Oh.
I think it's...
Philippines.
I can't go too much into this, but I mean, we had the pleasure to get stomped as well last week against G2. So I know the feeling. They're very good when they get lead and they know what to do. So yeah, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
It was very nice to watch the end of the game because it was the classic meet in the middle. They were actually both happy with what happened because they each got a stompy win that was very convincing. But H2K and G2, clearly the strongest teams in the league. How would you rank them? The same question I asked about Trick, actually. How much of a difference is there between G2 either or, G2, H2K, and the rest?
I mean, that's a really tough one. I think obviously H2K won against Fnatic, so they should be above them. But I mean, I want to see ourselves play against those teams. I think if we reach if we play at our highest, we can compete against them. As we played, like the first game we played against G2, I think it was a very close game, and we showed that we can play against them on a similar level. But if we don't show up, then we will probably just get a stomp. So I can't really rate it too much. I think I want to play them myself to see like how well we can do against it.
How is the increase of games here kind of treating you so far? Because if we compare how many games you've played, you would be over the halfway point by the string split already, you know, at this point. Is it helping you guys in terms of progression? Because you talked about how Scrim's stage is a little bit different, solo queue stage is a lot different.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying the fact that you get to play a lot more games on stage. You feel more comfortable overall. Today was a bit off day for us, I think, but overall, like, it's okay to have an off day on stage, right? As long as you can learn from it.
As long as you can still go 2-0.
Yeah.
That's not playoff.
So overall, really happy with it. We learn so much every time we go on stage and play in terms of our communication about what we do on the map, etc. So I like it.
Yeah, it shows. Let's take a look at the standings at the halfway point in week 3 here. G2 obviously still riding high in first. Fnatic are right on their tail in second, and then H2K. Very interestingly, Vitality, who we didn't touch on yet, they had a 2-0 over UOL today, and they broke the 3-way tie for 7th and jumped, from 7th to 4th. So that's a 5th, actually. A very big jump for them, and it just shows how important it is for these teams. You see Origin also taking 2 teams up there. How important it is to get a 2-0, especially Vitality coming back into their own versus UOL today.
With the introduction of the point system, where you obviously get rewarded more for like 2 straight wins, knocking like your straight competitors down is so important, and it makes the close games be so much more sour too. Because imagine if you closely could have gone 1-1, but you end up losing 2-0 to your opponent. That's like a big swing. Like, you lose that 1 point you would have gotten, and they get 2 more. So like, it's a 3-point swing, relatively speaking, and then they spiral out of control.
And that's a key thing for the G2 H2K series, is a 1-1 at the top of the table opens up.
Everybody's
Fnatic.
happy. Yeah.
Like, Fnatic lose to H2K last week in a dominating victory for H2K, and suddenly Fnatic jump them this week by getting 3 points. It's like that really, tough mix of having a 1-1 or a 3-0 can really mix the standings up week after week.
Are you guys looking at the standings already, or is it just like a week-to-week kind of...
I mean, it's hard to not look at it when we are that high, We're not used to this.
You're like, playoffs,
maybe
what is playoffs,
what is happening,
You have to cancel your vacation that you've planned during playoffs now?
I'm not too sure about that. I don't think I have any plans yet, maybe. But no, I think we probably have to cancel if we keep this up.
Send your suggestions for the vacation of Splyce.
Oh, that's assuming they go to relegation.
No, just kidding. Just kidding.
No, but I think obviously tomorrow we're going to face Fnatic, and whoever comes ahead of that matchup is going to look pretty good in the standings for sure. But we have to play better tomorrow if we want to play up against Fnatic for sure. They're a really good team. But I'm just super excited for tomorrow. I can't wait.
Yeah, it will be a very exciting matchup of you guys as well. Let's take a look at the leaderboard, the hard carries today for the player of the game. Cabochard twice.
Yep.
I do want to talk a bit more about Vitality, as we didn't touch on it yet. Cabochard, someone that was always a hard carry for them, now 2 times player of the game, and such an important win versus UOL for them.
Yeah, so he gets 2 points today, but that does it was very much so a team effort, and was in both these games it was him slightly cashing in on the setup that his team did for him. Like, we have to stress that. But he played Aurelia and had a couple of really nice teleports, really dismantling the backline from the Unicorns in the second game. But the first game was really close, could have gone either way. It was one of those mid-games, where nothing happens for a while. Everybody's dancing on the Baron, not starting it, and then suddenly Baron gets taken. Does that still happen a lot in scrims, where suddenly there's...
Yeah.
It happened in their game.
Anybody have a ward? Oh, Baron disappeared.
And then when they get the Baron, it's kind of like, oh, I guess we lost, or something like this. So it's very deadly, especially with the addition of Mountain Drakes. You can do it so fast, and you really have to respect it a lot. But definitely, Barons are very, very game-changing right now. I mean, we saw that in our last game here too. Like, if I didn't steal that Baron, we probably would have lost. For sure.
All the games that I've either watched briefly or casted today seem to be very heavily reliant around Baron, because lane swaps have gone kind of down to a T for a lot of this team. So everybody else had to play them, not get too far behind, and then the mid game goes very stale. Elder Dragon spawns a little bit too late. Would you like to see another game impacting objective come out? Because it's almost impossible to siege, it feels like.
I think the biggest problem with the Elder Drake is that it only lasts 2 minutes, and so a lot of teams will prioritize Baron over this, and then they will just wait and do nothing. Like, you can just sit and wait for the Elder Drake to get out, and then you can fight or pressure the game again with Nash. So I would like it to maybe be a little bit longer, so there's equal
opportunity.
Equal opportunity for the power of the 2 objectives. But yeah, that's why I think Nash is better right now than the Elder Drake.
Yeah, are you also struggling to kind of? I feel like you can never open up a base right now without a Baron. I feel it never happens anymore in pro play, where there's no side lane being pushed in. Like back in the day, you maybe had like, I don't know, a Gnar, you know, whittling down a turret eventually. Right now, everybody seems so good at defending in 1-3-1 or in 4-1 comps that you can't get into the base without that Baron.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's really hard. You have to be super strong in the 1-3-1 to be able to do this, and then bring up the topic before with division. Like you also have to do that on point. So there's a lot of things you have to do on point every time to get to that point where you can actually pressure the outer towers and side towers with the split push. So it's very team effort to be able to pressure them up for sure.
How close is Splyce to doing that?
Ooh.
What step is failing right now?
I think right now the biggest thing for us is that we sometimes lack a bit of communication, and we need to be better at listening to each other and communicating more. And I think that is probably the thing we have to work the most on.
All right, we will keep that in mind and look ahead to your match tomorrow versus Fnatic. Let's take a look at the rest of the matches on the slate. The UOL is taking on G2. They will be hitting the Rift rather in the arena, and they'll be followed by Splyce versus Fnatic, and in the studios Roccat versus Schalke to start the day, followed by Vitality versus H2K. Wow, Stress, is Vitality strong enough right now to take on this H2K?
I didn't catch today's Vitality games. I have to say no, just looking at their past performances and the little bits that I caught at least not H2K from last week.
The Crefo giggle, what is it?
No, I caught the games, and the answer is no.
No way. Okay, good.
I mean, the scope of this matchup has changed too much to like start a spling split where there was like Vitality having the makings of a really good team, and then H2K losing some of their players and all, and or the swaps going around, but then suddenly, I don't know, Vitality they've been on the decline. Like they went from like self-proclaimed super team by Shook, that person that said that is now removed from the roster.
That's rough.
Yeah, what's your take on them?
I think Vitality have really, really good players, but they seem to struggle to work together, and that is the biggest thing. I think from judging from practice, they seem better than they're performing, so that's a good sign, I think. But they need more time, and with I've never played with the Koreans before, so I can't really judge myself. But maybe they have some issues in terms of communication that they need to fix. But I wouldn't be too worried if I was Vitality. I think they can still grow and get to playoffs. They have the players to get there at least.
From an outside perspective, I feel like they need to fix their instability, whether it's Police in, Riot in, bringing them in. I know they've been scrimming with both, so there is a sense of practice with that. But as you said, they've got communication issues that you can see play in game. It doesn't look like anything other than aggression is leading them on Summoner's Rift. So it's like, hey, you guys have got to find a solid voice, a solid base to start playing from, and then maybe we'll see the growth.
And with that, we'll see what happens tomorrow in that Vitality game. Until then, we need to sign off, of course. Thank you so much, Trashy.
Welcome and happy birthday.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone at home as well. But we'll see you all back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central European Summer Time, 8 a.m. Pacific. So see you then.